Hey everyone, here is a list of both the paint colors and brushes used for today's step-by-step acrylic tutorial. If you'd like to follow along with the exact materials I use, their links can be found in the description box below. Let's jump right in and get started. The first step in our painting is to create a base layer to work from. I'm going to take my large square brush, size 12, and dive right into my burnt sienna color straight from the tube. I will use a bit of water to thin this paint down so that I'm able to easily cover my entire canvas with a very thin layer of paint. This is going to give us a nice base to work from and really allow for those beautiful acrylic paints to pop off our canvas. No matter the size or the complexity of my paintings, I always start with this step. Once our base layer has dried, we are going to do our first layer of our sunset sky. I am using the exact same brush, my square, size 12, and I am diving into my yellow and my red to create a nice orange color. As I progress down the canvas, I'm going to add a touch more of red each time to my brush to create a subtle gradient effect in the sky. I always try to tackle this step while my painting is still wet, and that way I can blend directly into the colors above and below to create a seamless gradient. Now that our first layer has dried, I'm going to continue to create a more opaque gradient and background to this painting. I will start off with red first, as this is going to be my darkest value on this canvas. I will use my square brush size 12, and I'm going to dry brush some of this red down on the bottom of my canvas. Using the red on my palette paper and a bit of yellow and white together, I'm going to mix the color for the top of my sky and make it much more opaque. I'm going to use my size 10 square brush, and using wide brush strokes, I'm going to move this color across the top of my canvas, back and forth in a sweeping type motion. When I feel as though it is bright enough and I'm happy with the color, just as we did earlier, I will slowly start to add in touches of red to my paint mixture. This is going to create a perfect color combination for the middle of the canvas. So we are not only going to get a much more opaque background, but now we are working and improving that gradient that we already had already. We're essentially wanting to blend the top section of the yellow-orange to the bottom red section and meet in the middle. For this next section, I will use two brushes to create a cloud effect in the sky. I am using my large filbert, size 4, and my large blender, size 12, and I'm going to mix a darker orange for the top section of my painting. Now you can make your clouds as dark or as light as you wish. This is all personal preference. I want my clouds to be a little bit more on the subtle side, so I'm going to mix an orange that is just slightly darker than the yellow at the top of our painting. I'm going to use the blender brush to buff the edges of the clouds, smoothing out the area and making them not as harsh or as visible. I'm going to do the exact same thing with a slight highlight in some areas by adding in a lighter yellow just around the edges of the clouds to create some contrast and add in some light. Next, we are going to add our silhouette to our painting. Today, I will show you an easy way to trace your subject onto your canvas, which is perfect for beginners who may struggle with freehand drawing. I have printed my reference and I will use a graphite pencil to coat the back of the paper with pencil. I will then flip the paper over and position it onto my canvas, and I will go over the outline of the subject with pencil even further. The pressure between your pencil, the paper, and the graphite will leave a light outline onto your canvas, and which you can go over as many times as you prefer to get that preferred heaviness. You can freehand this drawing, use the grid method, a light table, a projector. The possibilities are endless. Just be sure to have fun and use what works for you. Once you have your outline completed, I'm going to go ahead and use my filbert size 2 and size 4 to fill in the outline with Mars Black paint. You can use whichever brushes you prefer for this stage, so if you'd rather use your round brushes or your squares, for example, you are more than welcome to do so. A little tip for this section, though, is to have a smaller brush on hand that you can use to tidy up any of the edges of your silhouette or to get into those smaller areas. So for example, the trunk or the tail of this elephant are really quite small and detailed, so a small round brush would work perfect for this section to get you nice and close to your canvas. Once we are happy with our silhouette, we are going to go ahead and start the details in the water. Using my small filbert size 2 and my small round brushes size 0 and 000, I'm going to dive into red first and start to block in the areas that are the darkest on the water. Now remember, when you're using acrylic, we want to work from back to front, dark to light. So that's why I'm going to start with the shadows and the red in the water first. Now, when I'm painting water, I'm always thinking of the atmosphere, the scene of the painting. So I'm picturing bugs skating across the water, maybe some foliage or debris, the water moving slightly. How is the light kind of reflecting off of this water? And the shadow of this giant elephant. Those are all going to create depth in our painting, and they will all play a factor of how dark the water is and its overall appearance. Once your first layer of red has dried, I'm going to add some Mars Black to my red paint and create an even darker shadow layer. Using my smallest brushes, I'm going to go around this water and selectively drop in these very dark shadows. The next step will be for us to create a highlight layer on top of this water. I am using my small filbert brush as it gives me very nice, sharp, clean lines, and I will mix together a very light yellow. This will be the base for our highlight. I'm going to put this color all around the water in the lightest areas I can see. It is important to leave some of that dark shadow and that middle tone color to shine through to keep the depth and that look to our water. We don't want to cover over all of our hard work and have just a very highlighted, very light looking lake. We want that nice depth and all of those layers to be seen. While that is drying, I'm going to add a touch of a highlight on the elephant and the surrounding foliage behind. I will use my small round brush to achieve this, along with a mixture of a nice soft orange. Next, to blend some of the highlights within the water and make them much more smooth, I'm going to take my large blender brush, size 12, and I will make a very bright orange-yellow mixture. Using a lot of water, I will water this paint mixture down to what we call a glaze. I will put this glaze over the entire body of water to really soften the edges and make the highlights and the shadows seem more seamless and less pieced together. Once our glaze has dried, I will then go in with my filbert brush and touch up any areas of the silhouette that may have some of the glaze over top of it. I want this silhouette to be very crisp and clear at the end of this painting, so take the time now to tidy any of the edges that you see may be a little bit blurry or not as crisp. I'm going to take some time to add additional silhouettes of some foliage on the far right-hand side of this painting on this little island that the elephant is standing on. So you'll see that I add in some long tufts of grass with my liner brush, or you can use your small round as well. And I'm going to add in these little tiny tufts of grass as an added effect. A big shout out to our channel sponsors, Chartpak, Grumbacher, and Molotov for sponsoring today's video. Their links can be found in the description box below, as well as places where to purchase their products for your own art toolkit. Want to tackle another acrylic landscape? Check out this video here.